Hello everyone! My name is Miss Miller and today we're going to be talking about telling time. Telling time requires you to look at a clock, determine what the hour is, determine what the minute is, and then put the two together to form the whole time. Now there are two main types of clocks. There's digital clocks which just have the numbers that present the time. Then there's analog clocks which present the time using numbers 1 through 12 for the hours, 60 dashes for the minutes, and a hand for the hour to point to the hour, a hand for the minute to point to the minute. We're going to be talking about analog clocks and how to use those to tell time. When telling time with an analog clock, a common error that is made is either confusing or forgetting which hand tells the hours and which hand tells the minutes. The short hand tells the hour, and the long hand tells the minutes. By referring to these two hands as the short hand and the long hand instead of the hour hand and the minute hand, you can better remember which hand shows the hour and which hand shows the minutes, and by looking at their sizes instead of having to remember which hours or which time they are telling you. To determine what hour it is, you need to look at what number the shorthand is pointing to. For example, if the shorthand was pointing to 11, we would say that it's 11 o'clock. Now, there are many times when the shorthand is not pointing directly at a number. In these times, it's easy to make a mistake of choosing which number or which hour it is by looking at the number closest to the shorthand. Now, this works sometimes, but it doesn't work all the time, and I'm going to show you why. So, right here we have our clock, and it's, there we go, a little bit after 6 o'clock. So if I was choosing what hour, I would say, well, the shorthand's closest to the 6, so it's 6 o'clock. In this case, I would be right. But if I move the hand to right here, the shorthand is closest to the 8. So I would say it's 8 o'clock. But this isn't right because it's still 7 o'clock. So in moments when the shorthand is not pointing to the number or directly to the hour, it's best to choose the hour based on the position. So right here, we have it pointing directly at 7. So it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to move it just a little bit. There we go. And it's a little past 7. And so if we're looking at this telling the time, we'll say it's just a bit after 7. Because we're seeing words, we're basing the time based on where it is in relation to the number. Now, if I move this a little bit further and closer to the 8, I would say, if I was telling time, I'd say it's just a little bit before 8, or it's almost 8 o'clock, because it's closer to the 8, but it's not on or past the 8 yet, so it's not 8 o'clock yet. Now, it gets really tricky when the shorthand is right in the middle of two numbers. But if it's right in the middle of two numbers, it's actually quite easy to describe the time. I would look at it and I would say, oh, well, it's about halfway between 7 and 8 o'clock. The minute is determined by looking at which dash the longhand is pointing to. There are 60 minutes in an hour, so there are 60 dashes on a clock. A common mistake when trying to tell time by minutes is looking at the number, hour, that the longhand is pointing at and using that to represent minutes. For example, if I was trying to tell time on my clock and trying to tell how many minutes it had been, and it was pointing to 12, and I said, well, it's been 12 minutes, that would be completely wrong. This is wrong because minutes are in groups of 5 dashes, and the numbers used to show hours actually represents how many sets of 5 there are. I'm going to explain this to you with a visual. So here I have a model of a clock that I made using different colored counters. If you look, I've got 5 counters and the colors in groups, and they're separated by these sticks. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they're all in sets of 5. All right. Now I'm going to put them in sets to see how many groups of 5 I have. I'm going to start right here with the green. So I have 5 right here, so that's one group of 5. I have 5 counters so far. The pink makes 2 groups of 5. Orange makes 3. Green makes 4. The yellow makes 5 right here. The orange makes 6. Blue makes 7. The pink makes 8. The yellow makes 9. The red makes 10. The second blue makes 11. And the last red makes 12. So we can see that we have 60 minutes, and then we have 12 groups of those minutes, 12 groups of 5. Now, if I was wanting to figure out what time it was, I could actually count by 5s using the groups. For example, if I have the long hand pointing to the 4, I can count how many minutes it is by counting by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 20 minutes. Now, I don't know if you guys noticed, but 5 times 4 is 20. So, because there are 5 counters and their groups, if I'm trying to figure them out, I can either count by 5s or I can just multiply 5 by that number. So if I had, let's say 10, pointing to 10, instead of counting by 5s, I could just multiply 10 by 5, which would be 50. And then when I check this, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. It's right. When telling time, it's important to remember that the position of the shorthand depends on where the longhand is. I'm going to show you what I mean. So here I have my clock. I can tell that it's 8 o'clock because my shorthand is pointing directly to the hour, 8, and my longhand is pointing to the 12. Now the 12 means 60, but it also means the start of a new hour. So that's why the 0 is here, because that next minute is 8:01. We're starting the cycle over with 1. So that's why that has the 0. It is 60, but it can also mean 0 because it's that start of a new hour. Now, if I were to move my longhand halfway to 30, because 30 is half of 60, and there's 60 minutes in an hour. So when I put the longhand halfway, the shorthand also points halfway. Now, if I move the longhand to 55 minutes, which is really close to 60, the new hour, you will notice that the shorthand is also now very close to the new hour, 9 o'clock. One more example of this is if I were to move my shorthand to 5 minutes after 9, which isn't very far away from that 60, the new hour, you would notice that the shorthand is also really close to the new hour, 9 o'clock. So whatever the longhand does determines what the shorthand does. I want to thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned a lot about telling time. If you want to learn more, or you want to practice your time telling skills, you can go to the sites I have listed below. Thank you!